In trying to understand the idea of beauty in the visual arts, it would seem that there are at least two ways which we are able to identify what is beautiful. It may be that something is created purely to be admired and contemplated, like a painting or sculpture. But some things are beautiful also by virtue of their function and how they relate to their environment. It's these artworks with a function that interest me. Artworks that have inherent beauty and also a use in society, that may be decorative or utilitarian. Throughout time and across all cultures, arts like these were carried out by craftsmen such as tailors, weavers and metalworkers, each with their own distinctive knowledge passed down through apprenticeship from generation to generation. My passion to experience these traditions and the distinctive knowledge that they embody has led me to spend time under the tutelage of master craftsmen who have devoted their life to their art. From the stone carver in Wales to the icon painters in Mount Athos, I was seeking the essence of traditional arts, untouched by time and modernity. So when the opportunity arose to study the traditional practice of woodcarving in Kelantan, a region of peninsular Malaysia in Southeast Asia, I decided I'd document the experience of my training with one of the region's most well-respected woodcarvers. My immersion into the Kelantanese art of woodcarving would not be confined solely to the workshop. I was to learn about the region's rich and cultural historical past and how this had combined with its unique natural and cultural environment to inspire the style of generations of woodcarvers. But I was also to witness how a modernising Malaysia, combined with the religious politics of the region, would mean that the pure essence of the art of woodcarving, which had developed over hundreds of years, could now be in danger of disappearing if it wasn't for the work of some remarkable people. My arrival in Malaysia was during the monsoon season, when most of the activities were taking place in the paddy fields. I travelled from the capital of Kelantan south to the rural area on the border with Terengganu, where I was to start my apprenticeship. As we pulled into the drive, I was immediately struck by the grandeur of the wooding buildings. Arranged in an elaborate complex surrounded by dense forest, the buildings were situated behind an ornately carved gate bearing an Arabic inscription. This was the home of my teacher-to-be, the master woodcarver Nurhaizan Nuruddin. He had built a series of buildings using traditional techniques without the use of a single nail or screw. It had the feeling of a beautiful, stately home, regally adorned with incredible old and masterful carvings which Nurhaizan had collected and preserved.
The Malay world, unlike the rest of Southeast Asia, is not a world that has demonstrated or expressed its art in stone. Most of mainland Southeast Asia is a stone tradition, and most of Indonesia too, actually. Ours has been a unique, and Kelantan is especially unique in its appreciation of wood for creative, artistic, or philosophical expression.
Adjacent to his home, Nurhaizan had a large workshop. He spent the first day showing me the place where everything's happening. The workshop was divided into carpenters who were busy preparing the groundwork for major projects, and the carvers who were working away by hand on intricate detail. I was immediately struck by the quality of work on display and impressed by the speed and ability of the carvers. Nurhaizan had obviously found a way to sustain the traditional craft, whilst also at the same time meeting the economic demands of running a modern business.
I think there is a great concern that goes into Nurhaizan's work about the viability and sustainability of these arts, and he does believe that it is very important that it does exist. I think Nurhaizan's perception is to basically spread the word that this is important for our heritage, and this is important for our history, and this is important for our understanding of our own selves and who we are.
The next day, I returned to Nurhaizan's to settle into my lodgings, as I would be staying there during my training. Before I even touched wood, I had to learn the basic motifs and principles of Malay design. First thing next morning, the classes began. I'd be learning the basis for all crafts, namely draftsmanship. With the help of a translator and fellow student Citi, Nahaiza began demonstrating how to draw the traditional leaf motifs. He showed me how to manipulate a pencil to achieve the graceful, distinctive curves and how he gives the leaf shapes movement. Most cultures and civilizations around the world have their own distinctive, biomorphic floral decorative art, expressing nature through tessellating patterns. They all follow the same principles, but what makes them unique are the motifs because they're reflecting the local environment. During the class, I was trying to understand how the Malay artists represented these forms on paper.
Sebenarnya ukiran motif bunga Melayu kita ni dibawa masuk oleh pedagang-pedagang, trader, saudagar, merchant. Satu ketika dulu petani menjadi pusat pedagang-pedagang berkumpul untuk berdagang. Satu pusat yang dekat untuk India, China, Vietnam dan Jawa. Jadi orang Melayu ni bila dia tengok apa yang dia rasa bagus untuk dia rasa sesuai untuk dipakai, maka mereka tak salah untuk kopi, untuk meniru. Tetapi mereka tidak tiru sepenuhnya, tetapi mereka meniru mengikut gaya dan akan jadi hak mereka sendiri. Dia tidak kopi 100%.
This whole region of Kelantan used to be part of a larger empire of Patani, which had been a major seafaring point trading between China and India, so Malaysians would have been interacting with many different peoples. I wanted to know how this had influenced the woodcarvers and find some historic context for the pieces Nahaiza had been showing me, so I decided to see the collection at the Citi Yousoff Centre. Set in the Kelantanese countryside, the historic artefacts were housed in a 185-year-old Malay wooden house run by Rose Nawati Din.
Just watch out your step, down here and above.
Okay.
You need to go down. Okay. Now we come to this section of the gallery, which is this is the Rumah Bujang, or the bachelor's house. You can see the dark interiors, This is our problem actually with timber buildings, Newly cut, you see it's yellow, but it turns dark as it ages,
Right.
So interiors become very dark.
Right.
Of chengal. So all these are chengal.
Rosa Wati, or Wati, is the wife of the late Nik Rashidin Nik Hussain, who was a master woodcarver and an expert in the history and traditions of woodcarving. During his lifetime, he collected countless wood carvings from all parts of life, many grand ceremonial pieces, but also everyday utilitarian objects in order to safeguard a disappearing heritage.
You see carvings, right, on the left and right and the middle section. This is newly put by my late husband. Okay, the idea is experimenting the effect on the shadows. So this is the beauty of carving. To see it, in the silhouette, daytime from inside, nighttime from outside.
Because with carving, as opposed to painting, you're painting with light.
Right.
You're just capturing shadow.
That's right. Yeah. And then of course you see the rows of, this is my favorite actually, the quail traps are all my favorites.
They're very
cute. Yeah, and you see the rows of them, so many designs, composition. Right?
Would these actually be functionally, they'd be used? They'd actually use the cards? Quail traps, or these just for decoration?
Well, this is a real quail
Really,
traps.
really
They
is?
use then. So this is the beauty about traditional hobbies those days. I don't know. I mean, they go to the extent like decorating the leave for a single quail out there. Yeah, everything is being decorated and
just
being,
leave it out in the forest. Looking at the attention to detail and effort put into producing such stunning everyday items made me realise how entwined woodcarving was with Malay life. I was starting to notice reoccurring shapes and motifs. One in particular was placed at the head of many artefacts and gates, like a crown seemed to hold majesty and importance.
This is one of the exhibit in the gallery, which is mimbar. This is the pulpit. And anything that has got an indicator of a free design floating above. And we call it locally the gunungan.
What does gunungan mean?
Gunungan is actually taking from Mount Meru in English. Mount is gunung. When we go back to the roots of the Malay design, you can see all these pre-Islamic and Buddhist elements being incorporated.
It appeared that many of the vegetative and floral motifs were developed from images of Hindu deities as a result of Malaysia's conversion to Islam.
Yes, of course, there are pre-Islamic elements in Kelantanese traditions, but it is how they are understood and how it is negotiated. The Tree of Life is, in essence, a symbol of Mount Meru, which is Hindu, of course, the abode of Lord Vishnu, the preserver of the universe. But it has come to take on very mystical terms with the coming of Islam, and it is perceived more naturalistically than spiritually. And there's this tension between what is old and what is new that keeps driving the forms forward.
But I was about to learn about one motif in particular that has had a special journey and come to define the Kelantanese style.